Thank you.
Very exciting. You're the new generation.
Hey.
Hi, Sabrina.
Hey, now.
You're getting.
Somebody want to see if Facebook is up for me?
What now?
See Facebook live on our KDP page?
Did I speak? You talking to me or?
Anybody?
You want me to check it out to see if it's live?
Yes.
Okay, hang on. All right. I know you changed the name. What is it now? KADP what?
It's on the Kids Against the Death Penalty page, like the actual Facebook page.
All right. Is it just KIDS space or?
Yeah.
I know you want to change the name a little bit on your Facebook page. All right, got it.
It should send out a notification if you like it.
All right. Yes, it's live now in person. I love it. All right, so I think via Cisco WebEx. Now I pressed play and it didn't really do anything. All right, hang on. I see the page. It says live, Britany.
Uh-huh.
All right, I'm gonna come down.
It's rude.
It was me.
Ronald Kahn.
Hey, Ron.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
Hey, Sabrina, I see the top of your head. There you are. There's that pretty face. All right.
Show my pretty face.
Oh, your face is pretty too, but your hair is wet.
Hi, Bill. Yeah, made it. Woo-hoo.
Bill.
Amazing.
Hi, Gloria.
Who's that, Ron?
Yep, that's me. How you doing?
Okay, I'm gonna go take my pajamas off now that I've got on this damn thing.
Really? Okay.
I saw Walter Long on there for a second, so I think he's trying to get back on here. And so that's good.
Still here, Delia.
Hi, good. How are you?
Good. How are you guys?
Doing good. We're just, we're here, we're looking at the Kids Against the Death Penalty Facebook page. We're trying to wait until they can get in sync and get on live. So it's still not quite up, kids.
Hi, Sandrine.
Hi, guys.
How you doing?
It's good to see you. Sort of seeing you.
Hi, Sandrine. That's so good.
Good to see you still hanging in there.
There we are. We're still alive.
Where are you? Are you in France? Are you in France?
Yes, I am. We're trying to make it. It's getting worse and worse again, and we're not sure where it's going to go, but You know, we just take it one day at a time.
Oh, yeah, sure. Do what you can do.
Did they close down again, Sandrine?
Well, they don't really want to do it for economic reasons, but I think they're going to have to do it. We have hit more than 20,000 new cases per day, and we never had that, even at the peak of the epidemic in March, April. So they want the people to go to work, they want the kids to go to school, but it's just not working.
Yeah. Wow, that's a lot
Be
of
careful.
new cases. 20,000 new cases is a lot.
For our population, yeah, it's a lot.
Wow. But your mom is okay, Sandrine?
The family is fine. Yeah, thank you.
Good. Very good. Okay, so I think we're still waiting for Lily to come on. Gloria's back in her regular clothes. Bill, Ron, Sandrine, and the kids. All right. Well, welcome everybody. I think we're just going to give everybody a couple of minutes and see if the kids can get on Facebook Live.
Good luck.
Yeah, we had a little test run last night. And whose office is that? Good Lord, Bill, you're so organized.
Oh,
How's the weather in Alaska, Bill?
cold.
How cold?
Cold enough. In the 40s.
Oh my God.
Summer's gone.
Well, we're having hurricanes here, so don't feel so bad.
Actually, it's sunny and it's going to be 90 today. So the hurricane hit Louisiana and not us.
Again.
That's what they say.
Yeah.
If you don't like the weather, stick around 10 minutes and it'll change.
Yep, that's it.
All right. Mirinda, do you want to, since you are emceeing us, do you want to try to get started?
Sure. Do we have everybody?
Well, we have a lot of people that we can go ahead and get started with, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I just want to remind everybody when you're not speaking to please mute yourselves and so we don't have any background noise.
Hello. We have a lot of people that we can go ahead and get started with, I think.
Delia?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello? Guys?
Remind everybody when you're not speaking to please mute. I think somebody's Facebook Live is playing and we're getting a little bit of feedback. Background noise.
Lily.
Hey, I just want everybody to know that Facebook Live I've been watching you guys for like 10 minutes. It's totally on Facebook Live. So if you go to the KADP page, you can share it from there and then other people can start watching, just so everybody knows.
Thanks,
How do
Lily.
you tell if anybody is watching this on WebEx?
I am not sure about that. Hello?
I'm watching on WebEx.
Gloria?
Yeah, but you're one of the... What?
Yeah.
Hey, Gloria, this is Juana. We're not able to connect on the Wi-Fi here, so we're going to have to do it by voice only.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So letting us know, Juana.
So Mirinda, if they will click on participants at the bottom, you can see all of the people who are on WebEx right now, which is all of us, plus a couple of extra persons that I'm not familiar with. So okay, so thank you.
Okay.
So if everybody will mute now.
Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Hey everybody, my name is Mirinda. I'm a member of the Texas Death Penalty Abolition Movement and Workers' World Party. Welcome to the 21st annual March and Rally to Abolish the Death Penalty.
I need to get on here.
We are online this year and learning new technology so that we can further our mission of abolishing the racist and anti-poor death penalty. I'll be the MC, so I'll be introducing everybody. And first up today, we have Sandrine Skinner. She is the wife of Texas death row prisoner Hank Skinner and a board member of the French abolitionist organization, ECPM. So we'll go ahead and welcome Sandrine to the floor.
Thank you very much, Miranda. Thank you for the invite. It's good to be with you. I wish we could be actually together, but this year is a little particular. So yes, my organization, ECPM, Together Against the Death Penalty, organizes the World Congress Against the Death Penalty every 3 years. We are one of the founding members of the World Coalition Against the Death Penalty. And as you know, today is the 18th World Day Against the Death Penalty, which was initiated by the World Coalition. So I'll just give you some brief background, so because I know people are very much into the US situation, but you have to understand how it fits in the global picture. First, I want to say hello to the World Coalition members who are present today, and there are a few: Walter, Sabrina, Ron, Bill. Thank you. It's nice to see you there. So basically today, 2/3 of the world states have abolished the death penalty. However, the remaining third represents more than 60% of the world population. But it has moved extremely quickly. In the last 20 years, 50 countries have abolished the death penalty. Now we are tackling the core states, as we call them, the hard states. Unfortunately, the US is part of that group. We hope that with your help, this will soon change. So basically, the World Coalition fulfills 3 missions. The first mission is World Day Against the Death Penalty, which is meant to promote the work of abolitionist members and activists around the world to raise awareness among the public, because a lot of people have very little or wrong information about the death penalty. Our second mission is to lobby states for the UN moratorium vote, which takes place every 2 years in New York. And we lobby states who have voted against the moratorium on execution to at least abstain, if not to. And these numbers have increased a lot in the past few years, so we're really happy about that. Our third mission is to lobby states to ratify a protocol. It's an optional protocol to the Pact to Civil and Politics Rights. And that protocol is very important because it makes abolition irreversible. So the states who sign it and ratify it cannot ever go back and reinstate the death penalty. And we have also been making lots of progress. So our members, we support them in different ways. There are training sessions. We help them on how to reach the media, how to talk to parliamentarians, how to handle the legal community, how to organize events locally. For us, it's easy. We have technologies, we have the internet. You have to remember that in many parts of the world, it's not the case. And a number of our members are in countries where it is dangerous to fight against the death penalty. So we try to bring them as much support as possible and keeping them safe with their activities on the ground. So we have 160 members on all continents. 21 are actually from the US, so that's a good proportion. I don't know if you have any questions about the activities of, on the international level. As Bill could tell you about it, because the Journey of Hope is a member of the steering committee of the World Coalition, so he has sat with us through numerous lengthy meetings of working on international strategies, which are not always easy. And of course, I could tell you a little bit about Hank's case, and it's going to be a little because the CCA has been sitting on this case for more than 2 years now, and we are waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And that's where we are at now. They are not going to rule on his innocence at this point. They have to decide whether the results of his DNA testing, had they been available to the jurors at trial, he would not have been convicted. If they agree with us, then he has a shot at filing a claim of actual innocence. So we're not at the end of it yet, but we keep on fighting, even if the last, this year in particular has been difficult for both of us.
Thank you so much, Sandrine. I really appreciate the international view on this issue. It's important that we remain in touch with how this is moving globally. Thank you very much. Next, I'd like to welcome Rodrick Reed and Sandra Reed, the brother and mother of Texas death row prisoner Rodney Reed. And they have been fighting for 2 decades to prove Rodney's innocence. So I think they are on by telephone at the moment. So if you guys can go ahead and unmute, and welcome to the program.
Excuse me, Mirinda, we can't hear you. Can you turn your volume up? Thank you.
Can you hear me a little bit better now? Okay. So since I wasn't really loud earlier, I can introduce Rodrick and Sandra Reed again.
I can hear you, honey.
Okay. Rodrick and Sandra Reed are the brother and mother of Texas death row prisoner Rodney Reed, and they have been fighting for 2 decades to prove Rodney's innocence. And I know that they were having problems getting on by video, so they're on by phone, and if they could unmute now, welcome to the floor.
Okay, so I guess some people are still having a problem hearing Mirinda. So she was introducing Rodrick Reed and the family, and there was problems having them get online with their video, but they are on phone. So if Rodrick and Sandra want to go ahead and get on now, please go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Can y'all see me now?
We can hear you. We can't see you yet.
Okay. And I'm here with my and she's going to get it started.
All right. Can you hear me?
I don't know if y'all can hear us or not. We're trying to make sure y'all can hear us.
They can't. You see? Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yeah, we can hear you, though. I think your internet has had your audio cut out a little bit.
Oh.
Okay.
I can hear you.
All right.
All right.
Today is such a blessed day to communicate with you guys. And it's about doing the right thing, abolishing the death. I have a son by the name of Rodney Reed. He has been incarcerated for 23 years, 22, for something that he did not do. How did he get? He got there by number 1, conspiracy. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? He got there by conspiracy, lies, deceit, and my son was tried by an all-white jury, none of his peers. The judge allowed the prosecutors to make me a potential witness for them when I should have been a witness for my son. It took 8 people to do what they did to my son. Lisa Tanner, number 1. She represents the highest authority in the state of Texas. Charles Pennick, the DA here. Forrest Sanders, the assistant DA here. David Bowman, the chief of police. Richard Hernandez, the sheriff. Rocky Warlow, the Texas Ranger. And Dr. Bayardo, the medical examiner. And of course, the Judge Townsley. Nothing happens without that judge. There was so much corruption in my son's case. My son had court-appointed lawyers that paid $95,000 for work less than 5 months. Some people do anything for money, even kill. The death penalty is so very much flawed. It is heartless. It is prejudice against the poor. And it is racism. Number 1, it is wrong. My son and I, and my grandson and his wife, we will continue the campaign to end the death penalty, abolish the death penalty. We will continue to fight for what's right, and that's ending this evil death penalty. God bless you all. Be safe. Wear a mask, even though I don't have a mask on, but I'm at home. Wear a mask. What do we want?
Justice.
When?
Now.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you
Did they
so
hear
much.
me? Did you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. We heard you, Miss Sandra. Thank you for your,
very much.
yeah. Thank you for your powerful words. We really appreciate you
God
being here
bless
with us
y'all.
today.
I love you all. I love you all.
God bless y'all too. Hey, RJ.
Love you too. Hi, RJ.
All right.
Take care, Sandra.
That's all.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Alrighty. Thank y'all so much for speaking with us. Up next, we have Bill Pelke. He's the founder of the Journey of Hope, From Violence to Healing. After Bill's grandmother was murdered by 15-year-old Paula Cooper, she received the death penalty. Bill was beyond furious after his Nana was murdered, but eventually came to the realization that his grandmother would never have wanted revenge. After he retired from Bethlehem Seal, he founded the Journey of Hope, From Violence to Healing. He has since traveled the world speaking out against the death penalty. Welcome, Bill Pelke.
Thank you. And thank you for asking me to be part of this today. And Rodney and Sandra, you have my love. The Journey of Hope from Violence to Healing is an unusual organization. It's led by murder victim family members that are opposed to the death penalty in all situations. And we had our first Journey of Hope back in 1993 in Indiana. And then we incorporated, and actually our first events as an organization took place in Texas in 1998. 5 murder victim family members, Suzanne Bosler, Marietta Yeager, George White, and Sam Shepard, myself, formed into a nonprofit organization. And we travel around the country and around the world, and we share our stories of from violence to healing and talk about how the death penalty has nothing to do with the healing that a murder victim family member needs after a loved one has been killed, but now just continues the cycle of violence and creates more murder victim family members. And we promote forgiveness as a way to heal. And we promote restorative justice as a way to live. And we've traveled around the country and around the world sharing these stories. And as we do these tours, we're also joined by family members that have loved ones on death row to share what it's like to have somebody they love very much sitting in a jail cell waiting for the day when the state says they're going to take their life. We're joined by people like Bill Babbitt and Randy Gardner that have already had their loved ones executed. And they share their stories of what it was like for them to go through that sort of situation. And people have loved ones on death row now. People like Rodney and Terri. And the mantra for the Journey of Hope is love and compassion for all humanity. And I learned this after my grandmother was killed. And I was convinced she would have had love and compassion for this 15-year-old girl and her family. This 15-year-old girl that was involved in my grandmother's murder was sentenced to die in an electric chair. She was the youngest female on death row. I was convinced my grandmother wouldn't have wanted that and would have had love and compassion for this girl. I felt she wanted someone in my family to have that same sort of love and compassion. I didn't have it. I'm so convinced that's what she would have wanted. I begged my God to please give me love and compassion for Paula Cooper and her family, and do that on behalf of my grandmother. Just a short prayer, but it changed my life because my heart was touched with love and compassion. When it happened, it brought forgiveness and brought tremendous healing. And that's what murder victim family members need, is healing. They don't need to see somebody else die. We're not made that we're going to feel better seeing someone else die. One of the great privileges of the Journey of Hope, not only traveling to Texas, I think we've done about 6 journeys in Texas, but I'll never forget, in 1998, we went to Italy and we marched to the Vatican, 7,000 people behind the Journey of Hope banner, asking the Pope to make a statement about the death penalty. And when Pope John Paul II made his worldwide address to the world for the first time, publicly called for worldwide abolition of the death penalty. And he gave 2 reasons. He said the death penalty is cruel. He said the death penalty is unnecessary. And make no mistake about it, the death penalty is very cruel. Not only to the person we put into a cage and say on a certain day and time we're going to kill this person, but what we do to their family members is cruel and barbaric. And the Pope also said that it's unnecessary. It is unnecessary. Society has a right to be safe from people who commit terrible crimes. But if we can send a man to the moon and we can take a person that's committed a terrible crime and put them in prison for the rest of their life where they can never hurt anybody else, we don't have to kill them. The answer is love and compassion for all humanity. And that's our message that we try to spread around the world, because if you have love and compassion for all humanity, you're not going to see anybody put into the death chamber and their life taken from them. It's impossible. The answer is love and compassion for all humanity. I applaud all of you there, especially those of you in Texas. You've got a tough road to go, but I just thank you for taking a stand. And someday we're going to win this issue. We are right, and someday we're going to win. I just thank you. And I see many friends on the screen. Thank you all for what you're doing. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Bill. Yeah, it's really important to recognize that it doesn't just hurt the people who are murdered. The death penalty, it affects family members and a whole community that the person was a part of. So thank you very much for your words. And next, I'd like to welcome Dee Colonize, spoken word artist. Denise Dee Colonize Lopez is a Chicana artist and activist who has worked with organizations such as NACA, the Texas Death Penalty Abolition Movement, the World Around Town Poetry Tour, Creative Women Unite, and Voices Breaking Boundaries, bringing a message of revolution, self-sustainability, and community consciousness to the forefront. At present, Denise is a founding member and owner of All Real Radio, LLC, where the mission is to make the world better by creating a portal to great music and relevant social commentary, and by facilitating a space for community events and awareness. So welcome, Dee Colonize.
Hi guys, thank you for having me. Can everybody hear me pretty much?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. I wanted to first say thank you to everybody, to Gloria for inviting me, and for all of you's continued work that so long that I've been following, the work that has been done throughout the world, but especially in Texas. I tell people all the time how the Texas Death Penalty Abolition Movement has to be the most badass organization that is around, because you guys know people personally and you work daily that way, and it takes a lot. It takes a lot where many other people can go for one day and come to a march or an event, but you're in it and you living in it. So many of you involved deeply, family members, and I just commend you for that strength. I wanted to share something that Bill inspired me, because I wasn't going to share this poem because I'm like, you've heard this poem before, but I guess it's still relevant, and I'd like to share something that, Mumia wrote as well. That's one of my favorite poems. This is called Cruel and Unusual. Some live in comfort while you rot on that row, and it's hard to understand what some never come to know. That putting you to death won't help society as a whole. Killing you for your wrongs won't bring back a victim's soul or aid a family that's in so much pain. The death penalty shows human values gone down the drain. And what of the ones whose innocence is proven? If they're killed by the state, what good does it do them? Everyone knows the system has flaws. Race, sex, and age discrimination means wrong people trapped behind walls. Those without the capital get the punishment. That's a death row message that Brother Mumia sent. There is proof execution don't discourage crime. Inmates need rehabilitation, not death chamber time. Fact is, the death penalty goes against human rights. I have to ask Huntsville, how do you sleep at night? Cruel and unusual treatment is a 6 by 10 cell. Waiting to die is like living in hell. Don't wish this on another daughter or son. Let's destroy this demented embodiment of Babylon. It all connects, and it's time that people open their eyes. We rest comfortably while another human dies prematurely. It's decided by men. But doesn't God say, cast stones only if you have no sin? Yes, prematurely it's decided by men. But doesn't God say, cast stones only if you have no sin? That's one. This one is Miracles by Mumia Abu-Jamal, and it's from a book of his that is called Death Blossoms. Miracles. Not of a god of thunder, a god of silk, a god of the rich did the carpenter speak, but of a God of compassion, of peace, of a day brighter than today, a God whose miracles still work in the slave pens and shacks, in the projects, in the hellish daily life of the poor and the oppressed. Not miracles like walking on waves, transforming water into wine, but miracles of love arising in hearts where it seems least likely to flourish. Here and there, in the barrios and the favelas, among those who have least, beat hearts of hope, fly sparks of overcoming. And I also would just like to say that I was trying to write something new for this, and all that kept coming up were words which were new ways, break cycles, better ways to deal, better ways to heal, humanity in the eyes, in the touch, break cycles. I'll eventually write something better for that. But I want to particularly say thank you to the family of Jeff Woods, because Jeff Woods' case was the case that opened my eyes to the death penalty. I was just so unaware, and one of those people that was ruled by emotion. And when I saw people victimized or killed or anything of that matter, I was could have been somebody very quick to judge and want to throw away the key. And when I saw what was happening, what happened to Jeff, and when I learned about the law of parties, everything opened up from there. So I want to say thank you, and peace to him and his family. That I know sometimes it's so hard to keep the faith. So I'll turn off my camera because I'm crying for no reason. But thank you for your work. I know it's hard.
Thank you, Denise. We love you.
Thank you so much for sharing your art and your emotion and your full self. I really appreciate it. Next, I think we have Harold Dutton, but I'm not sure if he's on the line. If not, we can go on to Walter Long until we hear back. Also, Denise, Free Mumia Abu Jamal. Walter Long is an attorney practicing appellate law in Austin, Texas, founded on the Texas After Violence Project. He founded the Texas After Violence Project in 2007, hoping it might help foster dialogue between Texans on all sides of the death penalty debate about the human needs revealed in the stories collected by the project, so that Texans might move beyond polarized discussions and seek together a less violent future. With strong interests in human rights and restorative justice, Walter has found that his most rewarding work as an attorney has been past years of litigation on the juvenile death penalty issue and more recent law psychology public policy advocacy for recognition of the death penalty as a trauma-inducing system and a public health concern. Welcome, Walter Long.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. I just want to give out our website at the outset. It's www.texasafterviolence.org, the Texas After Violence Project. And, our position is that America's retributive criminal justice system and prison systems are trauma-organized systems. They are in themselves abusive, and they repeat and magnify problems caused by violent crime. These abusive systems live and thrive on telling us a very thin story about law and order, good and evil, about punishing evil as the way to maintain social order. They don't really consider or take any responsibility for their own participation in conditions that lead to violent crime or the damage caused by their own violent solutions to crime. One of the many manifestations of damage caused by these systems is the complex trauma and grief suffered by death row inmates' families. At Texas After Violence Project, we view it as our task to the circumstances through which our society can come to replace these abusive systems with regenerative systems. And so, sort of in pursuit of that, last year we produced a big report on the capacity of death row inmates' families to access good therapeutic counseling. And the report is called Nobody to Talk to, Barriers to Mental Health Treatment for Family Members of Individuals Sentenced to Death or Executed. Its principal author is Susanna Sheffer, and you can find it on the opening page to our website. There's a link to the report, and there's also a link to a video training session that Susanna offered on the unique needs of death row inmates' families and the challenges to good therapy for them. And the families themselves have unique challenges, as I'm sure many of you are aware, that are sometimes referred to as disenfranchised grieving, anticipatory grieving, complex trauma, all to some extent as a consequence of the state's pursuit of the death penalty against their loved ones. So we support and our training video around to Texas universities that have counseling master's programs to train advanced students in therapeutic care so they can become licensed professional counselors or social workers. And one of those universities responded very positively and is planning to set up a clinic program for death row inmates' families. And they're in the, be training their that are going into the world, graduating and becoming therapists. They'll be training them in the particular needs that death row inmates' families have, and in counseling strategies for them. And then they're going to open up the clinic probably around the end of this semester, maybe the beginning of next semester in January. And that university is St. Edward's University in Austin. And was that Delia?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. And so they now have this brand new, this coincided beautifully because they've got this brand new clinical program where they're going to be doing distance therapy out of an office. Their students are going to be doing it supervised by professors. That was just now set up. We showed up with this and they said, oh, we want to integrate this into that. And so there's going to be probably a website that will come. There's a website for that counseling clinic right now. If you Google St. Edward's Community Counseling Clinic. You can find that. And there'll probably be a sub-page to that set up for the death row prisoners' families program when that's up and running. So just wanted to announce that for you guys.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the work that you're doing and the information you shared with us today. Next, I would like to welcome Yancy Balderas. She is an activist whose life changed in 2004 when her boyfriend from middle school and high school was arrested for capital murder. Juan Balderas was held for over 8 years before being tried and sent to death row. Yancy, who came to the U.S. when she was 6 years old, is the first in her family to finish high school, and she's now studying to become an attorney. She and Juan married before he left Harris County Jail to go to death row. Today, she works night and day, not only for Juan, but for all those on death row. Her energy and dedication is an inspiration for us all. So I'd like to welcome Yancy and ask that anyone who's not speaking mute their phones and computers.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for organizing this event. Death penalty affects us, affects me every day. Let's see. And we've come to see personally how this courts in Harris County work. And it continues to be run the same way. Things like allowing the prosecutor, the nephew of the prosecutor on his jury should never be allowed. We got millions of people in Houston. Why allow the nephew of the prosecutor to be part of his jury? Why not accept when the jury comes back with the hung after 2.5 days? Why not accept? Maybe if we were cops, if this was a cop case, they would have accepted that hung jury. But for us, they made the jury continue deliberating after 2.5 days. After being hung, after sending a note that they had exceeded their attempts to come to a conclusion and his innocence. And then we are giving Jerome Gottnich, according to the judge, in this case, he's a pioneer of capital murder defense attorneys. A pioneer. Juan waited 8.5 years. Juan never had an investigation. Trial was set 4 years in. Juan had never met his attorney. We met the second chair until trial 8.5 years later. We never met an investigator. They don't care. And us, sometimes we don't, we're ignorant to the laws and the process, and we trust that the process is going to be right and it's going to be just, but that's not true. And I've seen it not only Juan's case, and so many other cases coming out of Harris County. Here we are, sitting on death row 6 years, and demanding to be given all the evidence. We want all the evidence turned over. We got some evidence turned over in 2018 when it should have been turned over at trial, not years after sitting on death row. Yes, those information should be looked at, but no, the courts don't want to even give us the chance to present the evidence we have. They want a rubber stamp word by word and get what the prosecutors present. It's broken in Texas. It can't be fixed. We should abolish the death penalty because who's sitting on death row? It's poor people that can't afford representation, that have Jerome Carnage as a representation. The jury came back with 13 questions. We did not have one attorney present at court to answer those questions. 300 cases that year. How is that proper representation? And I know we got it tough here in Texas, but we'll continue with the death penalty abolition movement and with the coalition against the death penalty and with everyone that wants to join us in Austin. We'll continue fighting to abolish the death penalty. I'm here with Juan's mother.
Juan's mother, we are still fighting until we pass away, and we want justice because the justice is only for rich people, not for people, Latinos and Black. We don't have justice. We are still have pain every single day, because I never touched my son, Juan Manuel Balderas. We will continue fighting. Thank you for everybody watching this video.
Thank you for your hard work. I encourage everyone to please go volunteer at the polling locations, to please give rights and make sure everyone goes out and vote. We could turn Texas blue, and let's do it. We got the numbers.
Thank you so much, Yancy. I really appreciate all the work that you've been doing, and we're here for you. Love you. Up next, we have Elsa Alcala. She's a judge she was a judge on Texas's highest criminal court, the Court of Criminal Appeals. Elsa Alcala served only one term but left a big mark. At the end of 2018, Alcala left her seat on the court, opting not to run for re-election. She actually questioned the constitutionality of the death penalty. Last session, she became a lobbyist for the Texas Defender Service, which is a nonprofit that represents capital defendants and seeks death penalty reforms. Please welcome Elsa Alcala.
She needs to unmute her mic.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, sorry, I was having a little trouble there. Well, good afternoon to everybody. It's my privilege to be here to talk to everybody who is opposed to the death penalty. I know that y'all have been involved for quite some time in trying to change an unfair system, and I appreciate all of your efforts. I am a latecomer to this cause. I was in support of and prosecuted and tried death penalty cases and resolve death penalty cases, both at trial and on appeal. And back then, I believed that what so many of the people here today currently believe, which is that if somebody has a fair trial and a fair appeal, that then the system can identify the worst of the worst. And that's how the death penalty is sold as a system to people in the world. The problem is that that is just false. It just isn't happening. And I really didn't realize that wasn't happening until I got to the Court of Criminal Appeals, where I was having to decide these issues either on direct appeal or on a habeas writ that came post-conviction, or literally within hours of an execution. That's when we were deciding these cases at the Court of Criminal Appeals. And the problem is that the system that had been sold to me as a young prosecutor that I believed was a system that worked, in reality is not the system that exists, or at least too often it doesn't exist. And so that led me to believe what I believe today, which is that the death penalty is truly just random. It's random as to who gets it and who doesn't get it, and why that person gets it and why that person doesn't get it. And if a system is random, it is unjust. It should not exist. And to best explain why I think it's random, I think in my head, I do what I would do as a lawyer on direct exam in a trial. Lawyers are told to ask who, what, when, where, why. Those are the questions you want to ask in a direct exam. So when I look at the death penalty, those are the questions I'm going to ask. So who are we talking about? Primarily, we're talking about poor people, people of color, and cases where the victim is Anglo. Those are the people who are going to get on death row. If the person has money, not going to end up on death row. If the victim is a minority, possibly you're going to end up on death row, but more likely if the victim is Anglo. So the who part of this is highly problematic. The what are we talking about? Well, primarily we're talking about the intentional death, not primarily, that is what we're talking about, the intentional death of a human being. That's what we're talking about. It is taking a live human being and killing that human being. And people want to sanitize all of this and just say, well, it's lethal injection or it's the death penalty. But what it is taking a live human being and causing their death. That's called homicide. And that is not clean or pretty, and it can't be cleansed into this sterile term of the death penalty. When is another question. Well, primarily the 200 people or so who were on death row are people who got there in the 1990s, 2000, 2010s. If those cases were looked at today in 2020, probably 95% of them would not end up on death row. We are not seeking the death penalty. We, meaning the government, is not seeking the death penalty today when it did seek the death penalty in those earlier decades. That's not a just system if somebody's going to be executed today for something that would not be, that they would not be executed for in the 2020s. And frankly, that's what hit me the most when I was on the Court of Criminal Appeals. I was reviewing cases and I would tell myself, if this happened today, there's no way this person would be on death row. And yet me as a judge, I'm being asked to bless off on this execution when I know that this person would not be executed for this crime or this situation in 2020. So there's a real disconnect between the people who got there early on and the people who are getting the death penalty in 2020. there's no real logical way to reconcile what's going on in terms of the past and the present. Where is another question. Well, if you commit your crime in certain counties, then you're likely to get the death penalty, like in Smith County. Well, they're going to seek death penalty on there in the most ridiculous offenses, and they're going to strike minorities and not let them on the jury. If you're in Smith County, you're going to have problems. But if you're in another county like Bexar County or Dallas County today, or Harris County even, most likely in Harris County today, they're not going to seek the death penalty. So where the offense occurs is going to decide this, which I think is a random way of doing a death penalty. And then why? Why are we doing this? Statistics and evidence continually shows there is no correlation between the safety of the public and the death penalty. So when you look at why are we doing this, it's revenge, pure and simple. It is simply, we don't like what you did, so we're going to cause revenge on you. And that is not justice in my mind. Justice should not be based on retribution or on revenge. It should be based on punishment, which can be done with a life sentence or life without parole. So when I looked at this after decades of being involved in the criminal justice system, and I tried to reconcile what I was doing on the Court of Criminal Appeals with what I thought was legally and morally correct, I couldn't reconcile those things. And so that is why I have now become so vocal about being against the death penalty. So thank you for including me today. I appreciate it. I think this is fantastic that kids are involved like this, and putting on a webinar like this. I'm so impressed by y'all. I don't think I could have done this or even dreamt of it when I was your age. And so I'm proud of the kids for doing this. And I'm proud of all the activists for being so vocal and so strong. I know it must be exceedingly difficult, but keep doing what you're doing. I really believe it's working. I really believe your voice is being heard. And I believe that we're going to see the death penalty, the end of the death penalty in my lifetime. I really do believe that. But I join Yancy in saying the first thing you can do in the next 20 days is vote, and take every single person you know to vote and make sure they vote for those judges, because the judges are the ones who can change the system today. Today, the judges could vote in Texas that it's an unconstitutional system because of its randomness, but that's not going to happen as long as we have the current judges in power. And so you're going to have to vote if you want to see any changes to the system. But again, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Elsa. I really appreciate your comments and your time. And just you made me think about how the death penalty is not a deterrent. In states that have the death penalty, murder rates are higher than in states where they don't have the death penalty. It doesn't keep people safe, and it is a public health issue. So thank you for bringing that up. And next, I want to welcome Harold Dutton. He's on the line now. He is a member of the Texas House of Representatives, District 142. Harold grew up in Houston's 5th Ward, and like Congresspersons Mickey Leland and Barbara Jordan, he never forgot his roots. Each legislative session since he was elected in 1984, Representative Dutton has worked for the people. He has introduced a bill to abolish the death penalty every session and held a Day of the Innocent at the legislature to honor those released from death row after being found innocent. And he's coming to us today. He's been feeding folks during this pandemic. So I'd like to welcome to the floor Harold Dutton.
I don't know if you can hear me yet. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, good. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. And let me thank Gloria for reminding me to get on this today. I was over here at the North Channel Library. We've been giving out foodstuffs to people who are in need, and certainly I wanted to be part of this. But let me just quickly say this. I have sponsored the bill to abolish the death penalty ever since I've been in the legislature. And what I will tell you is this, is that it's a great idea for us to turn Texas blue. But the reality is that I sponsored this bill when Democrats were in charge. And so I think the problem with the death penalty is one that we've got a big job to do in making sure that all parties, everybody, no matter which party you're in, you're going to understand that in Texas, the death penalty is only applied to poor people who are black and brown. If you have any sort of resources, then the death penalty is not for you. Now, I don't too often correct judges, but let me add one thing to what the judge said, and that is in Texas, one of the few places you can get the death penalty and not have killed anybody. And you can do that under what's called the law of parties. If you happen to be with someone and it can be shown that you were committing a felony, and in the process of committing that felony, a person gets killed, even accidentally, even in an accident, you can be charged with capital murder and receive the death penalty. We've been trying to change that as well, because I just think that, and what we've seen in a lot of cases more recently is how absurd it can be. In one case, the person who actually had the gun and pulled the trigger got a life sentence, and the person who was just along with the person, and maybe they were helping them commit the crime, but in any event, they received the death penalty. And now that's the absurdity of Texas's death penalty law. And so I've committed myself to changing that, to making sure that the death penalty applies. If it is, it's going to apply to the rich as well as it applies to everybody else. But since that's not going to happen, one of the things we can do is eliminate it. And I think, as I've said before in the legislature, we simply need to give the death penalty statute in Texas the death penalty because we don't need it anymore. I was telling somebody recently that while we've not been able to pass the bill to outlaw the death penalty, what it did is I think it helped, and this is with you all support, it helps us create life without parole. And so that happened not because it was in isolation, but because you all have been involved. And so I want to say to you, keep it up. Let's keep it up. Let's make this fire burn brighter so that legislators begin to react. And the one thing I've said to them is every time you see as a legislator that Texas has executed someone, you have to take responsibility for that. Because either you created the statute or you didn't do anything to make it go away. And since you didn't do that, for Texas to have murdered somebody, given them capital punishment, you're one of the culprits in that. And I think the law of parties ought to apply to them just as it applies to everybody else. But anyway, thank you all for what you do. And I want to say I'm looking forward to working with you come the next legislative session. And I will look forward to you all coming back to the legislature. And let's make this a reality, because I think in some cases, Texas has become almost the laughingstock in the nation when it comes to the death penalty, because everybody knows that we're the death penalty capital of the world. We execute more people in Texas in 1 year than probably most of the states combined do in any 1 year. And so to me, that's a travesty, and I'm going to do everything I can to change it, but I can't do it without you all's help, and I'm looking forward to it. Thank you all very much for this opportunity, and thank you for what you do. And God bless you all, and be safe.
Thank you so much, Harold Dutton. I was looking at the fact sheet from the Death Penalty Information Center, and when they list out the different states in the US that have executed people. Texas has executed 570 people, and it has executed more people than the next 6 states combined. It even has its own bar on a bar graph, Texas, when compared to different regions of the country. So we're the capital, it's true. And he also, Harold Dutton also spoke about the law of parties, which segues really well into our next speakers. We have Terri Been and Lydia Garza. I'm not sure if Lydia is on the line, but Terri Been is the sister of Texas death row prisoner Jeff Woods, sentenced under the law of parties, and Lydia Garza is the mother of Texas death row prisoner Humberto Garza, sentenced under the law of parties. Both women have fought every way they could think of to help their loved ones and also to eradicate Texas's law of parties. Lobbying each legislative session, it is their voices, their cries for the loved ones that most affect legislators and their aides of the horrors of the law of parties, which are real and unjust. So welcome, Terri Been.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, awesome, thank you. So good afternoon, my fellow abolitionists. I would like to start off by thanking each and every one of you for joining us here today at the 21st Annual March virtual edition. I know this isn't our normal or preferred method for delivery for these life or death messages that we need to convey, but our personal stories, they're too important not to be shared. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Terri Been, and I am a human rights activist. I'm also an anti-death penalty activist, but most importantly, I am a family member of a Texas death row prisoner. As I'm sure that you've already heard, today is also the World Day Against the Death Penalty. So we've come here in solidarity to publicly educate and raise awareness about the injustice of the death penalty, the law of parties, and wrongful convictions, not only here in Texas, but throughout the United States and the rest of the world. Each year on World Day, there is a theme, and this year's theme is entitled Access to Counsel, which is a matter of life or death. And it's absolutely appropriate because as of July 1st, 2020, there were 2,591 death row prisoners in the United States. A majority of these prisoners were poor and could not afford proper representation. Many of them suffer from mental illness or mental retardation, and some, like my brother, did not commit murder but was still sentenced to death under the law of parties and will die for murder that the courts and the juries know that they personally did not commit. Many were innocent and were failed by the lawyers and our system, a system that allows prisoners to be put to death despite being represented by disbarred, suspended, or incompetent attorneys who even fall asleep during capital murder trials, a system that allows terrorists life sentences but condemns a person who is factually innocent of murder to die with the law of parties, a system that does not apply the punishment equally for all citizens, rich or poor. My brother Jeff was convicted under the controversial law of parties, and he was convicted of murder even though he was not the shooter in the crime, and even though he was not even in the building when the murder took place. Further, Jeff had no knowledge that the murder would even take place because he was ignorant to the fact that Danny was even carrying a weapon. The shooter, the actual shooter in this crime, Daniel Renault, he's already paid the ultimate Texas price with his life and unfortunately was executed by the state of Texas back in 2002. My brother is just one of many who are factually innocent of murder who await their own murder. Humberto Garza, Randy Halprin, Rudy Medrano, Juan Ramirez are but a few more of the law of party cases here in Texas, and each have their own degree of culpability, but none of these men committed murder, and the death penalty is supposed to be reserved for the worst of the absolute worst. And another law of party case is Kenneth Foster. Fortunately, Kenneth was granted clemency and his sentence was commuted just before his own scheduled execution, but Kenneth is still serving life in prison for driving a car. Okay, so in my mind, that's just way too much. And Kenneth still needs your help. He still faces injustice. And so I'm going to ask everybody to please join the Rise Kenneth Foster Facebook group and see what you can do to help make a difference for him as well. Robert Garza is another law of party case, and unfortunately, in his case, Robert was not so lucky, and he was cold-bloodedly murdered by the state of Texas for a crime he did not commit. My heart hurts so much for his mother, Sylvia, and also for the family members, Greg Wright, Larry Swearingen, And while those two may not be law of party cases, they were innocent men who were callously murdered by the state of Texas. And I could go on and on with names, but I am limited on time. Some of you do know that my brother has had 2 different execution dates, and he's literally come mere hours away from his own execution before he was given temporary stays. Currently, my brother is death eligible and could technically receive a death date at any time. Normally, when I speak here at the March, I talk about a need for reform in law and what we need to do to make positive change a reality. But today, I really want to address an elephant, if you will. I consider myself to be a victim of this crime, and so are all of the members of my family, my brother's daughter, his grandkids, and so are his friends. There simply aren't words powerful enough to describe what my family and I have gone through since this all happened 24 years ago. Emotionally, I'm in that cell with my brother every single second of every single day, and every single day I'm awaiting death. Don't even get me started on the emotional toll that it takes with the sheer amount of worry for my brother's mental state because of the added restrictions. And Texas is the worst for restricting their prisoners, but the added restrictions and torture with this COVID, no visitations for almost 8 months now, slowed mail, Johnny bags for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, any kind of lack of any friendly, ear for them. Our stresses, they come in many forms and from all directions. In addition to all of this, we as family members have been chastised. We've been called names. We've had guns pulled on us. We've been almost run over by several vehicles while we were marching, purposely swerving to try and hit us. We receive hate mail, hate messages, especially when our loved ones are plastered all over the news. The average person does not care to do background research, and they wholeheartedly believe the lies and the mistruths that are spread across the media. And all they see is the title, convicted murderer. And so we become evil entities, just like they are, incapable of love, feeling, or goodness. So they think. Make no mistake, we family members are also, we do become the monsters that they portray our loved ones to be. And as a result, we've lost jobs, we've lost income. Some of us have had to move several times. Some of us regularly contemplate suicide. Others have tried it. Other family members of other death row prisoners that we work with, they rely heavily on alcohol or illegal substances. I mean, really, can you imagine saying your final goodbyes to your loved one and being absolutely powerless to stop it? How can it not affect you? So just imagine now being a child of one of those prisoners and everything that they go through. I personally have had a couple of different breakdowns. Once I even had to take depression and anxiety medicine. I do have PTSD from coming so close to my brother's murder a couple of times. And honestly, I should still probably seek counseling, and I should probably still have a running prescription. But we're limited on our means and our budget. And anything extra that we can spare, it goes right to our loved ones to try and ease their burden and their suffering. So we always put ourselves on the back burner. I could speak for hours and hours about this, so I'm just going to close really quickly with a plea for help. We are about to start lobbying again for the criminal justice reform that we need, and we're asking you to contact your representatives, and not only just your own personal representative, call and write them all. As a citizen of Texas, that is your right to do so. The time is now for our lawmakers to initiate a fair and open dialogue about our state's capital punishment system and to address such issues as the risk of executing the innocent, the exorbitant cost of the death penalty, and the biased and arbitrary way in which this punishment is meted out in Texas. They need to be urged to support alternatives that punish truly guilty and protect society without resorting to state killing. Further, they need to be made aware of the emotional toll that this is taking on the family and friends, and how it negatively impacts our day-to-day life. Separately, our voices are faint, but together we are strong and we can make a difference. So in closing, I wanted to relay the following message to you from my brother. Just really quickly, he says, hello, everyone, and thank you for coming here today in an effort to make a difference. I would like to personally thank you for those of you who have signed my petition and attended rallies or marches on my behalf, or who have called or written Capitol members on my behalf. It's easy to forget about us in here, but we sure do appreciate all that you do for us. And I ask that you please continue to pray for us daily. I'm sorry. And they continue to make some noise.
It's okay, Terri. Take a breath. Take a breath.
And that you continue to voice for us, even though you probably won't get to go door to door at the Capitol like you normally do. But I know that you're all super creative and will find a way. I wish you all successes in your upcoming lobbying efforts and pray for you all to stay safe from COVID. So that's it. Thank you very much for listening, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Terri. We love you guys.
Thank you so much, Terri, for sharing that with us and talking with us about the real toll that this system takes on people, not just place in its immediate path. I really appreciate you sharing with us today. Up next, we have Sabrina Butler-Smith, who spent 5 years in prison and almost 3 years on Mississippi's death row. She's a Witness to Innocence member, and she speaks around the country on the death penalty and has been with us here in Texas several times at our annual events and also when abolitionists lobby the legislature. So please welcome Sabrina Butler-Smith.
Thank you guys for having me and getting the opportunity to speak with y'all. I want to say to victims' family members that the fight is not over. God's got this, and you guys, I don't care, hold your head up and continue to fight, because silence don't get nowhere. As long as you guys are there and got breath in your body, you can do this thing, and I'm there too, because it is wrong what the system does to us as a whole, and I think that the more we speak out against this and the more people be coming to the fold, the bigger our voices will be. My name is Sabrina Butler-Smith, and when I was 17 years old, I was accused of killing my son in a small town called Columbus, Mississippi. When I was charged with that, that was one of the hardest things for me to ever fathom, because I love my children and I wouldn't dare do anything to hurt them. I was sentenced to death and for a crime I never committed. I had an all-white jury almost, and I had two alternates. One was black. I didn't have a jury of my peers, nor did I have decent attorneys at the time. One of my attorneys was a divorce attorney who was drunk during the whole trial, and the other attorney just didn't do the investigative work in my case. They did not research and find out that my son had problems. I didn't find that out until I ended up with a second attorney who found out that my son had heart problems, kidney problems, and chronic bowel syndrome. It was nothing that I did to cause his death. I just didn't know how to apply CPR at the time. And, I did it under the tutelage of another person, which in part, the person was never called to the stand to even say what they did or did any type of CPR. So I think that in the beginning, my case was a kangaroo court situation. The district attorney at the time was young and overzealous, and I was poor, black, and uneducated at the time, and he just made a name for himself using my case. They sentenced me to die. My sentencing was March the 13th of 1990. My death date was July the 2nd of 1990. When I finally made it to death row, I was only 19 years old. Having to be sent to prison and put on death row for a crime you never committed, it's unfathomable. I mean, it was one of the worst experiences that any person could ever go through. Having to be in this cell, being in your bathroom, freezing when it's supposed to be warm, when you're supposed to be warm, cold when you're supposed to be, it was a lot. Receiving trays with ants and rats in your cell, and, just considered to be the lowest person in this world. And the bad part about it was that you didn't have attorneys to talk to you. And my death date was July the 2nd. And when that date came, that was one of the hardest days for me, because nobody told me that the state of Mississippi had to exhaust all state remedies before they could actually carry out a death sentence. So that was horrible. I mean, to know that these people were coming to kill me, that's exactly what I thought. But, when you're uneducated and don't understand what's going on, and a child on top of that, it's even worse. And so, I've been fighting this fight since I got out December the 18th of 1995. I've been fighting ever since. I work with an organization called Witness to Innocence, and we are all death row exonerees. that go around the countries talking to as many people who will listen, anybody, to try to get you to see that the justice system is incorrect. It does not impose the death penalty the way that it should. And I think that as long as we have a death penalty like this, we're going to always have these type of monstrosities. People upset, losing loved ones. And for what? This is ridiculous. This is, I can't do nothing but be angry about that because I feel that it's wrong and we're just killing our citizens. And it shouldn't be that way. I am the first woman exonerated in the United States from death row. And I hate that title, but I mean, I'm going to continue to fight. And I just hope and pray that everyone that's on here that are just listening will talk to your local legislators. Pound the pavement. Do whatever you have to do to get these people out of the office that shouldn't be there, because that's the problem. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Really thankful that you're here with us today, and the state of Mississippi wasn't able to do what it wanted to do.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Sabrina.
Thank you.
Up next, I want to welcome Ron Keine. He spent 2 years on New Mexico's death row facing execution, an experience that changed his life. He's now a board member of Witness to Innocence and has written and traveled extensively to speak out on the wrongful death penalty. His voice has changed the hearts and minds from coast to coast. So please welcome Ron Keine.
Hello. Well, she said, my name is Ron Keine. Hello, everybody. I'm glad to see everybody here. Hi, Sabrina. Haven't seen you in a while. Haven't seen a lot of you guys in a while.
Hi, Ron.
Hi. Anyway, brief synopsis of my case. My case is similar to Rodney Reed's because a cop was the original murderer. Different from Rodney Reed, as I was on death row 9 days from my execution date, and the cop came forward. He said he found Jesus and he confessed. Not only did he confess, he snitched on all his buddies who helped frame me. He snitched them all out. 3 cops got fired. Prosecutor lost his license to practice law, which is very, very rare in any of these cases that anything happens to these guys who do this stuff to us. So, can everybody see me okay?
No, we can't see you, Ron.
I'm seeing you.
Yeah, but we can't see you.
I don't know how to change this.
It's green. Your screen is green.
I think you have something over your camera. Is there?
Over what?
Do you have something covering your camera?
Oh, God. Oh, God.
Okay, here I am. I still see Sabrina. You must have your mic on. Yeah, no, you're not muted. Okay, can anybody hear me now?
We can see and hear you. Yeah, we can see and hear you.
All right. I only got a few minutes here. So what we've been doing lately, I'm also not only on the board, but I'm chairman of a committee called Justice After Exoneration, where we're going after compensation and other things for people who've been wrongfully convicted, especially death row. Our guys, we're 172 of us now that have been convicted, sentenced to death, and found to be innocent. And I've been working in New Mexico trying to get compensation there, and it's kind of hard. We've got a Democrat trifecta there. The House, the Senate, the governor, all Democrats, but it's hard to push anything through. We're trying to get the compensation bill through. They have $1 billion excess dollars from last year and predicted again for this year, another $1 billion in excess. And they're afraid to pay compensation. Another thing we're going for is what they call qualified immunity, where these cops can do any damn thing they want to anybody they want and nothing happens to them. And it's just getting ridiculous. We just had a recent case where a cop literally murdered somebody and he claimed qualified immunity and he won his case and they let him off completely. And it happens. As long as these cops don't have any repercussions for the stuff that they do to us, they're going to keep doing it. Now, if we can go after them criminally, civilly, or anything, when they do this stuff, they wouldn't be doing it so much anymore. We wouldn't have all these beatings and killings and stuff like that. But as it is now, they have free reign, and the legislature gives them the chance to do it. So now with this qualified immunity, we almost had it. We went into session, it got voted on, and it passed, but they put it into a committee. Instead of just okaying it, they put it in the committee. And it's kind of weird because we do have the Democrat majority there, but they seem to be fighting us on some of this stuff. In Michigan, we won our case in Michigan. We got compensations from everybody. When we presented in front of the Republicans, we got overwhelming, unanimous response, yes. Matter of fact, we asked for $50,000. They said they're going to give us 60. It went to the Democrat side, and they voted it down. They only gave us 50, and they had to fight with that. So it's not always a red and blue issue. It's supposed to be, but it really isn't. So anyway, we're fighting in these states, and we're trying to do that. I've been working with the Innocence Project quite a bit. We've been doing quite a bit, and we're sending out our speakers now with Witness to Innocence. We're doing everything virtual now, and we're actually doing quite well because now these colleges and people we speak for, they don't have to pay transportation. They don't have to pay for our food. They don't have to pay our lodging or any stuff. So we're getting the word out to even more people now in these webinar type things. I want to thank everybody for being here, listening to me, and good luck with all the cases down there. And hopefully we can get back down there and do some marching. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Ron.
Thank you, Ron.
Sure.
Thank you so much, Ron.
Yep.
Yeah. I just want to touch on something both Ron and Harold Dutton have mentioned, that even with Democratic, representatives that we elect, like voting is not enough. And we need to make sure that we keep the public pressure on. We need to make sure we keep our feet on their necks to let them know that they supposedly serve us, but they have to listen to us. And we have to make sure we continue to build a movement that they cannot deny. And it vote yes, and but also continue to work together. And next, I want to introduce Britany Burtz and Nick Bean. They are the founders of the Kids Against the Death Penalty. Nick is also a nephew of Texas death row prisoner Jeff Wood. Kids Against the Death Penalty was formed by the very young nephews of Jeff Wood, who's totally innocent of killing anyone, yet found himself on death row. Their determination to educate an uninformed public about the law of parties has won over many adults who have been impressed by their knowledge and enthusiasm to correct Texas's wrongs. So please welcome the Kids Against the Death Penalty.
Oh, am I supposed to start the beginning?
Yes.
Okay. This is a script, guys. All right, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Nick Bean. I'm one of the founding members of KADP. I'm actually pretty excited to be here in conjunction, on the World Day to End the Death Penalty. And we would like to play two short humble beginnings on World Day Against the Death Penalty. Both videos will be about 3 minutes or less. Yeah. So much wisdom. I can't.
It's not my fault. I'm sorry. In a minute, in the chat, post a link to those two videos. Like you can probably link and post it there. And just say that you're going to post a link to them so they can see the kind of hear the videos better.
Yeah, I'm something about that. And again, we'll post a link for those videos. Also, just want to give 10 reasons to end the use of the death penalty. No state should have the power to take a person's life, period. And it is irreversible. It is unfair. It is inhumane and degrading to both parties. It denies any possibility of rehabilitation whatsoever. It is applied overwhelmingly to the poor and underprivileged. It creates more pain and a lot more pain. It is counterproductive. I can't. It is inefficient and does not keep society safer. Not all murder victim families want the death penalty, and we heard Bill and a couple others speak on that already.
10 things you can do to end the death penalty. You can organize a demonstration, kind of like what we normally do each year. Either it's a rally or a webinar. Organize a gathering on a video conference platform. Coordinate a letter or email writing a campaign. Participate in a TV show or within a community radio. Organize an art exhibition, which we will also do at the end. Join the events. Donate, follow social media campaigns, mobilize the media, and participate in Cities Against the Death Penalty or Cities for Life. Thanks.
We love you guys.
Thank y'all so much for sharing. I really appreciate y'all being here and all your work you've done so far. Up next, we have Delia Perez-Meyer. She is the sister of Texas death row prisoner Luis Castro Perez, who has dedicated her life to her brother. If every person on earth had an advocate if every person on death row had an advocate like Delia, there would surely be more justice. The National Innocence Project in New York has finally accepted Luis's case, but Delia will never rest until her little brother is home with his family. So please welcome Delia.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Mirinda. That is very sweet. You know, one of the things that my let me get this light on. Maybe you can see me a little better. One of the very last words that my mother said when she passed away about 2 years into Lewis's death sentence was she said, go visit Lewis, go visit Lewis. And so, you know, I took it upon myself because now I was the matriarch of the family. Can everybody see me okay? I don't know how to make this picture.
Yes.
I don't know how to make my picture bigger, but is that okay? You can see me?
We can
Okay.
see you and hear you.
So I want to show you a picture of my mom. And so she had a heart attack. She had a heart attack within 2 years after my brother went to death row. And unfortunately, she's not the only parent who has passed away, you know, soon after or during, you know, this traumatic event that we go through as a family. But anyway, most of you know me. I am Delia Perez-Meyer. My brother is Luis Castro Perez. He's been on death row as an innocent person, actual innocent person, for going on 23 years now. And he was wrongfully convicted of the murder of 3 of his friends here in Austin, Michelle, Cinda, and Cinda's little girl who was 8 years old at the time, on September the 10th of 1998. And so, of course, since then, we have been fighting desperately to save his life. And, you know, we couldn't do it without all of you guys. You know, I think everybody has spoken so eloquently today about the death penalty in general, the work that everybody is doing. So grateful for all the exonerees and the attorneys and the legislators that have joined with us to help us in our quest to abolish the death penalty. Terri, your brother's letter was very heartfelt. It's you know, we're always so happy when we receive a letter from our loved ones to let us know that they're happy and they're safe and they're okay. And you know, so it's so important for us to continue writing to our loved ones and to our pen pals. I am most grateful for the Europeans who have fought so hard alongside us. Sandrine, I don't know if you're still here or not, but you know, many years ago, the European community helped us to eradicate the drugs that were being used to kill our loved ones. And so, you know, that has definitely, you know, been huge in stopping some of these executions, questioning the execution process. You know, I think the most important thing for me today was to hear Judge Elsa Alcala talk about her experiences with a system that is fraught with error. And then they turn it over to her to make the decision whether or not to kill this person or when to kill this person. So I'll very quickly say about my brother's case that when the law passed in January, the Michael Morton law, that it's now finally against the law for a district attorney or the judges to withhold evidence. So at that time, there were several boxes of evidence that came out in my brother's case. And since then, there have been several more. And Mirinda, yes, as you said, the Innocence Project took my brother's case, but it's not the first one. There are 4 Innocence Projects that have worked on Lewis's case. And I want to give a shout out to Carolina, my friend, who came in at the end of Joseph's execution and just gave such a valiant fight to try to save his life, who was also the law of parties with the Texas 7. So Carolina, glad to see you. My role in today's event was to introduce all of the family members like I normally do at our marches where we all get together and stand together. But of course, we're not in person. So I just want to say thank you to each and every one of the family members, you know, that participated today. I'm so proud of the kids against the death penalty who were little bitty kids, as you saw in those videos. And, you know, I just distinctly remember them marching alongside us, knee high, you know, screaming and yelling, and it's very touching to see that you guys have grown up, taken over, and produced this today. So we're very grateful to the Jude Filler Foundation for the grants that were made possible for all of us to be here today. And the last thing is my brother sends his love and respect to each and every one of you. He loves you all so much. And he's doing well. As you all know, he suffered a couple of heart attacks and he's had a couple of bouts with the flu. And so he's still in the infirmary and he's still very ill, but he writes these amazing, positive, funny, you know, silly letters. And we've, you know, we've continued to keep each and every one of you all in our thoughts and prayers. The last thing I want to say is that we do have a little art show at the end of this, or whenever, I don't know if it's coming up next or not, but, and it's called Love from Death Row. And they are different pieces of artwork that were created and they were sent to me over the years. And we produced a few art shows, actually around the world. And so blessed to have the artwork, and I'm really excited to see it online. So I love you all very much. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here today. Those of you who are out in Facebook land and in Europe and around the world, thank you very much for all of your love and support. And we hope to abolish the death penalty. Looking forward to this next legislative session. Thank you. Mwah. Was that 5 minutes? Sorry, guys.
Oh, thank you so much. Really appreciate your words, Delia, and your work, your constant work. Next, I want to introduce Liliana Segura. She's a journalist covering the death penalty and criminal justice reform, most recently at The Intercept. She writes excellent articles on prisoners, criminal justice issues, and the death penalty. Her recent article in The Intercept on Christopher Villalba, a Texas man executed by the Trump administration on September 24th, should be read by everybody. So please welcome Liliana.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I don't know, can you all hear me and see me?
I can see you.
You can? Okay. I couldn't see my video, and so I just wanted to make sure. Thank you so much for that introduction and for mentioning my article about Christopher Villalba. You know, I've attended the March for Abolition for many years, and it's an honor to be included this year as a speaker. It really means a lot, and to see so many familiar faces with incredible stories that have moved me and that have always informed my work over the years. You know, as a journalist doing this work and as somebody who's been sort of in some part of this movement for almost 20 years now, you know, I really thought I had seen a lot up until now. I really thought I had seen a lot of injustice and a lot of sort of vengeance and bloodlust from various governments when it came to the death penalty. But I have to say, I've never seen anything like what I've seen this year in Terre Haute, Indiana, which is home to the federal death chamber. Some of you, like Bill Pelke and others, have been there protesting these executions. But I think that we have to get really loud to explain to people what's going on in Terre Haute. We started this year knowing that the Trump administration was going to be restarting, fighting to restart executions, federal executions after 17 years. They made that announcement in the summer of 2019. And frankly, many of us were surprised it even took this long for this to start happening. But what we didn't know, and what I certainly never imagined, didn't anticipate, was that there would be a global pandemic that would take over our lives and bring much of society to a halt. And of course, what did the Trump administration do in the midst of this deadly pandemic that was affecting so many people and killing so many people? They decided to set date after date after date after execution date, and they have not stopped. Up until now, they have succeeded in carrying out 7 executions in the federal death chamber. They have brought victims' family members. They've brought lawyers. They've brought BOP and DOJ and U.S. Marshal staff and officials gathered together in these places on the eve of the first execution when they executed Daniel Lewis Lee. A staff member at the prison who had been involved in planning these executions tested positive for COVID. And did that stop them or give them pause? No, they decided to just carry on. I'm sorry that you all can't see me. I don't know why my video is not working, but I can try to, as long as you can hear me, I'll continue. If you all could give me a signal, as long as you can hear me, that would be good.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, sorry. I don't know why my video is not working. But so I wanted to just say that about the federal executions. You know, one thing that I've come to learn is that, you know, most people don't really understand the federal death penalty system and the ways in which it mirrors and actually, you know, exemplifies the flaws that we're all familiar with, the flaws that you all have talked about when it comes to this system. You see the same horrible defense attorneys. You see the same junk science. You see the same misconduct. You see innocent people. All of those problems exist at the federal level and then some. You know, and yet when it comes to the federal system, there's one less layer of review. You don't have state habeas. You don't have that state level process that's supposed to catch these problems, right? You only have the federal process. So people actually run out of appeals very, very quickly and get almost no hearings, almost no meaningful review from the courts at the federal system. So that's in many ways the federal system is as bad, if not worse, as what we're seeing in the state system, and people's family members are suffering just the way that all of you have described so beautifully and movingly today. I wanted to also mention that
I was on the
Hello?
Hello?
Sorry, I was hearing I was hearing somebody else, but can you all still hear me?
Yes, we can still hear you.
Okay. So yeah, I guess I just wanted to close by saying a few more words about Christopher Villalba, who, as you mentioned, was the last person executed in Terre Haute. Christopher Villalba, as you mentioned, was from Texas. He was only 19 years old when he committed the crime that sent him to death row. His co-defendant was only 18 years old. Both of them were young Black men. Christopher Villalba was the first Black man to be executed as part of Trump's killing spree, but he is certainly not the last. Orlando Hall is facing execution on November 19th. Orlando Hall is a man who was sentenced to die by an all-white jury. So again, you see the same racism, the same problems that we're used to seeing, and we have to spread the word about this. A lot of people think that the only people on federal death row are, you know, there for terrorism or those kinds of crimes, and that just couldn't be further from the truth. There are cases filled with injustice, filled with unfairness. And in terms of Christopher Villalba, you know, I got to know him a little bit before he died. We had a chance to correspond, and I actually have gotten to know his mother quite a bit as well. And I'm currently working on a story about her experience after his execution. And what she described to me, she described how, you know, after his execution, when she came home to Texas, and she went to the funeral home where on the day that he was going to be buried, it was only then that she was finally able to come up and touch his chest and put her hand on her son, who she hadn't touched for more than 20 years. And to hear her describe that, and to hear his sister describe what her older brother meant to her, it's just one of those other reminders of why this system is so cruel, it's so unjust. And when you're carrying out executions in the midst of a global pandemic, there's nothing that could expose more clearly the lie that this is about public safety instead of revenge. So thank you for giving me some time to talk about this. Thank you for including me. Thank you for everything you're doing. I really appreciate it, and stay in touch.
Thank you, Liliana.
Thank you so much, Liliana, especially for those words on the federal executions, which for the first time in a long time this year, the federal government has outpaced the states, particularly Texas, in executions. Really appreciate your information. And I heard that Lydia Garza might be on the phone. Lydia, can you hear us?
Okay, I'm connected now. I don't know if you can see me.
I cannot see you, but I can hear you. So if you would like to go
You can hear
ahead.
me?
Yeah.
Well, my name is Lydia Garza, and I am Humberto Garza's mother. And I am not an eloquent speaker, but I've heard Terri said everything that I could possibly even think of saying, and I just want to thank everybody for making this possible, and I thank everybody that has joined the effort. The kids, I remember walking along them and just when they were small, and that's how far back we go together. And I just want to thank everybody that makes this possible. And just hearing everybody speak gives me encouragement, because lately here with the pandemic, not having the visits and not having the calls has been quite depressing. Um, and I think everybody has just touched everything that I could possibly think of, especially when it comes to the injustice and to what the families and everyone suffers along with the person that is incarcerated. My son, he is my only son, and he is under the Texas law parties. He was sentenced under the Texas law parties, and he was not the shooter. He was not at the place where this happened. But it's just so unjust, and I just want to thank everybody for making this possible. Okay, and I'm there when I always try to be there for this big rally. I always make it. Last year I had my whole family up there. I rented a van and went up there to be with you all, and I just thank you all from the bottom of my heart. And I know my son does too. I thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lydia. Really appreciate your words and your presence over the years.
Yeah, thank you.
And just a reminder, if you're not speaking, could you go ahead and mute yourselves? That's much appreciated. Thank you. Up next, we have Lillian Mauldin. He is the Amnesty International at the Amnesty International UT chapter, which is an organization that works on campus at the University of Texas and attends each of our annual marches. Their youth and enthusiasm matches their knowledge of the wrongs of capital punishment. So I'd like to welcome Lillian.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. I'm getting some feedback. I'm not sure if anybody else is hearing that. Okay, there we go. Thank you so much for the incredible presentations and speeches today. I'm going to keep this relatively quick. I'm just honored to be in this virtual space with you all and all of your strength that it must take to get through these personal experiences with the death penalty. Again, my name is Lillian. I've been involved with Amnesty International for 3 years by leading the UT Austin chapter. I'm still in college right now, but I plan to make activism my full-time career after graduation. So as you all know, the death penalty is racist and disproportionately affects people of color. And one way we can all combat the racist American criminal justice system is to uplift communities of color. And for that reason, I just wanted to take the rest of my speaking time today to promote and uplift some great social and racial justice organizations to donate to get involved with in the Austin, Texas area, which is where I'm currently based. First is the Austin Justice Coalition. Their mission is to improve the quality of life for people of color by helping them be the driving force behind their own liberation. They're currently advocating for defunding Austin Police Department, working with EMS, Integral Care, APD, and community groups to reform the mental health crisis response. And they are also equipping communities affected by gentrification and displacement with tools to hold their elected officials responsible and accountable. And their website is austinjustice.org. The second organization I just wanted to uplift is Black Mamas ATX. Their mission is to ensure that Black women survive and thrive before, during, and after childbirth. They provide prenatal support, birth and postpartum support, and mental health support to Black mothers and soon-to-be mothers living in Austin. And their website is blackmamasatx.com. And then lastly, but certainly not least, I encourage everyone to stay involved and up to date with Rodney Reed's case. I've been involved in organizing activism efforts with the Reed Justice Initiative for the past 3 years. And they are just a beautiful family and a beautiful group of people. And Rodney Reed and his family deserve justice. So if you are able, I encourage you to donate to the Reed Justice Initiative to help Rodney's family work on his case and work toward abolishing the death penalty in America. Their website is reedjusticeinitiative.com, and you can also follow them on Facebook and Twitter to keep up to date on the case and keep up to date with the actions you can take to help. So thank you all again so much for having me here, and thank you for your incredible strength, your perseverance, and your dedication to this movement.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your words and your time today. It's really important to for folks who are tuning in who might not know a lot about this, to find people who are doing the work, like the people you've heard from today or the organizations mentioned, find people doing the work and join, because things only move because we make them move. And with that, I want to welcome our last speaker before we have our Welcome Death Row Art Show, and that is Gloria Rubac. She is a member of the Texas Death Penalty Abolition Movement and Workers' World Party. Gloria has been an activist for over 50 years, but became an abolitionist after attending a rally outside the death house in Huntsville in 1982 when Texas executed Charlie Brooks. She worked to free Clarence Brantley and Ricardo Guerrera from Texas death row, which were two important victories in a racist history of Texas's 570 executions. So please welcome Gloria Rubac.
All right. Can y'all hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Back in 1993, y'all can't see me though. Oh well. Back in Oh, okay. Back in 1993, when I witnessed the execution of my dear friend Carlos Santana, which was a law of parties case, and none of us even knew what the friggin' law of parties was back then, but he was a man that didn't kill anyone. But I got to speak with him as he lay on the gurney, because in 1993, witnesses were in the same room. The only thing separating Carlos and I was one of those theater ropes. But he asked me if I would never stop fighting the death penalty. And the last thing I told him was, no, I'll never stop. So here I am today, decades later. I want to talk about a couple of things. One is I want to talk about the women on death row, because we don't hear about them as much, we don't see them as much, and so on. But there's 6 women on Texas death row: Erica Shepard, Darlie Routier, Brittany Holberg, Linda Carty, Melissa Lucio, and Kimberly Cargill. I especially want to say something about Melissa Lucio because she had her case overturned in July of 2019. And of course, the state of Texas appealed that. Heaven forbid that they would admit she was wrongly convicted. But because of the pandemic, all the appeals before the arguments before the Fifth Circuit, which is the court that overturned her conviction, they haven't been held because of the pandemic. So she's waiting and waiting and waiting to find out if she's going to get a new trial or if they're going to release her. She was convicted in 2008 of murdering her 2-year-old daughter. And I think that we all know that unless somebody is seriously mentally ill, we don't kill our children. We might threaten to kill them if they stay out late, or we might threaten to kill them if they don't clean up their room or whatever. But women don't murder their children. There's a new film about Melissa that came out, I guess last year. Well, no, it premiered this year at the Tribeca Film Festival. And now a company has picked up the rights to the film. So I'm hoping that, we'll be able to see it soon. The film is set in the Latino community down in South Texas on the U.S.-Mexico border where she lived. And so anyway, I just want people to be on the lookout for that film. And I think the title of it is Melissa versus Texas. Now, as we're ending this call today, and I got to thank everybody for all these great talks. I'm so excited I figured out this WebEx thing so I could get on. I want to give some good news. And God knows we have enough bad news to make us depressed. But good news is happening. Only 5 states have carried out executions this year. Only 5. Of course, Texas is leading them, but Texas carried out 3. And the Death Penalty Information Center says this is the first time since 1983 that there's been less than 11 executions. There's one more scheduled for Tennessee. The man not only has claims of innocence, but also of mental disability, and I hope he gets a stay. Now, one reason for the low executions this year is the virus, but executions have gone down every year for the last 15 years. This is a new trend. When I went to the first execution in the modern era back in 1982, I didn't see light at the end of the tunnel, but there is light now, and I hope it comes quickly and that we don't lose more lives. In March of this year, Colorado became the 22nd state to abolish the death penalty. So that's good news. And currently, half of the states in the United States either have abolished the death penalty or have a moratorium on executions. New death sentences are down 90% since the mid-1990s, and executions have declined by 75% since the turn of the century. And more than 80% of all counties in the United States have no one on death row and haven't executed anyone in the last 50 years. So there's not a single reason that we even need to have the death penalty. It creates more victims, as our family members have said, and it executes innocent people. It executes people with mental disabilities. It executes people that are mentally ill. And it just really needs to be abolished and gone to hell. There's not a single reason to have legal lynchings in the United States. It's racist. It's used against poor people, working class people, and its costs are in the millions. And as I can't do numbers, but in one of the abolition movement's meetings, we figured out Texas had spent well over $1 billion executing people. $1 billion. So before I end, I want to thank the Jude Filler Foundation for helping us get us together today. And I want to let people know that they can join our Facebook group. It is called The Texas Death Penalty Abolition Movement. and you got to put the on it because somebody ripped off our old Facebook page. But I want to congratulate everybody that's watching online or on Facebook or whatever, and all of our speakers from Paris to Alaska to, where's Ron, in Michigan, to down in the Rio Grande Valley where Lydia is. Thank you guys, and let's abolish this damn death penalty once and for all. Amen.
Thank you so much, Gloria, and a huge thank you to everybody who spoke today. This has been an excellent group of people. And before we close out today, I'd like to introduce the PowerPoint of the art show for Love from Death Row. And again, thanks to everyone for tuning in, and we will abolish the death penalty.
I have a question, Mirinda. Has this been recorded so that people who couldn't get on can watch it later?
I know for sure that it's on Facebook, and you can rip the recording from there. So yes, there will be.
Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome. And I believe Tech is working on putting up the slideshow for Love from Death Row. So we appreciate everybody's patience with our learning through this technology in this strange year. For their work. This is our slideshow.
So can I make a few comments, Mirinda?
Yeah, I was just thinking it'd be good to have someone narrate. It'd be perfect for you to talk.
This is Love from Death Row, and this particular picture is called Suéltame by Louis. My brother did not know how to draw, was not an artist per se when he went to prison, and so the first book that I sent him was how to draw hands, and he drew this particular picture, and Suéltame in Spanish or in English means let me go or set me free. And this particular drawing has been around the world, and fortunately, I have it. I've gotten it back now, so you might be able to see it on the wall behind me. So Louis and his buddies on death row started sending drawings and paintings to their families and friends. And at that time, I was just so distraught about the death penalty. And, you know, I had been very involved in arts and music and cultural arts here in Austin. And I just was so devastated. I just couldn't do it anymore and just gave up. And one of my friends said, Delia, you can turn your pain into, you know, into something positive by utilizing this artwork that the boys are sending you. So that's what I did. We started our first death row art show in Denver, Colorado, because nobody would touch it here in Texas. So this is Tony's work on the left. And Louis and Tony always fight about who's going to get table time, as they call it. So whose picture is going to be up front and first during the art shows. So they kind of mess around with each other about that. Louis drew this lion many moons ago for one of his children. And the rose was sent to me by Edward Legrone. And of course he was executed. And I just, love this rose. And then I got to thinking he probably sent one to a lot of women. But I still have it, and I just adore it. This one became a very popular print that Louis sent as I started sending him magazines of Southwestern art, and of course, you know, now everybody's done their DNA, and we all know that we are, you know, 40% indigenous or whatever, and he just really started drawing a lot of Native American style pictures. This is one of my favorites. It's just so intricate. And so on the left there, I named a few people who started this with him: Randy Arroyo Baez, Edward Legrone, Tony Ford, Tony Medina, Anibal Canales, and Eugene Broxton, and Gary Sterling, who most of them have been executed. Louis has a wonderful pen pal from Germany. His name is Kevin Mobius. And we got to know Kevin when we went to show the film The Road to Livingston in Germany. So we got over there, we did the film. I think most of you are familiar with the film, but anyway, it's The Road to Livingston. And then found out that Kevin was this great artist, an amazing international artist. And so Louis started these two paintings kind of as a copying of Kevin's work. So these were for his grandson. And this is Kevin's work because, you know, everybody knows that I love flowers, but none of the guys on death row would sink so low as to be drawing flowers on death row. Very few of them. There was a couple. James Aldridge did beautiful flowers. But anyway, so Kevin did these particular flowers for me, and then we started a little chat group with Louis's pen pals in Europe, and he has since drawn a lot of flowers for most of us on the little Zoom call each Thursday, if y'all want to join us. And of course, that is my sweet brother, and Nadine Broxton, her husband Eugene, is still on death row, innocent, and has a good case of innocence. As a Catholic, as a Christian, you know, this picture is so powerful to me. And this one he did for Anne Stevens, and I think most of you know who Anne Stevens is. She comes from the UK each year about 3 times to visit pen pals all over Texas, not just on death row. But she recently retired, and she works, you know, at her home, near her home, like as a street, you know, works with the street people, with the homeless people. She washes their feet. She cooks for them. She's just amazing, and we miss her dearly on death row. This little fish on the left, the little bear, this was done for the UT Law School. They have that capital punishment clinic, and they were doing a little fundraising event. And, you know, I never wanted to sell Louis's art. At first, you know, we couldn't sell anything. No death row inmate could sell or profit from their work. So we just never entertained the idea of selling the artwork. And I use it just to, you know, like this, to share for educational purposes. But this little bear went viral and brought big bucks at an auction that was by the UT Law School Capital Punishment Clinic. And then, of course, the rosary. This little bird, you know, Louis is always amazed that people love this bird. I think Gloria has one of his birds. But anyway, he did this with the pen, or I think with the pen, and it's also been a huge hit. This painting on the right is one that Eugene Broxton sent me many, many years ago, and I still cherish it dearly because of the colors. As many of you know that they cannot have regular art supplies and paint, so they have to create their own paint with fruits and vegetables or whatever they have available to them. And the origami is also by Eugene, and this was at another art show. Now this picture in the middle, they never really want me to show this picture because it shows the gang violence that got him into trouble. But I'm terca, as my brother calls me. I'm just determined to show this, mostly because of the little children on the gurney when we had all of those, young kids on death row. And Walter, if you're still here, thank you so much. Walter was instrumental in removing those juveniles from death row, but also the mother's eyes and the tears, which we saw so many tears today, mine included. And it's just powerful. And then Lewis took an art class with the European woman and art classics, and he drew those too. So, and that's just basically what I just told you all. And thank you so much for sticking around to see the art show. Thank you so much, Mirinda, for putting it together. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Thank you, guys. Love you all so much. Thank you, Kids Against the Death Penalty.
Thank you to everyone. We'll abolish the death penalty.
Thank you, everyone.
I miss you guys.
You too. Just want to give shouts out to Britany for getting all of this research and all of the things done, applying for the grants with the Judith Spiller Foundation and getting everything set up and ready to go. We really appreciate it, Britany. You know, it's a lot of hard work, especially when you're planning for your wedding.
Amazing. I wish we could have an after party at my house right now.
Yeah, really. It's an after party at Lily's. That's tradition broken, but we're gonna have to do it again soon.
Hopefully
We have to figure out now how we're gonna lobby the dang legislature with the virus. I don't know.
I don't know, but we'll figure it out. We got to get creative.
Yep.
You too, Sandrine. I hope to see you over here soon too. She posted in the chat.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so
bye, Sandrine.
I guess we're gonna have to start. Maybe we'll have another Zoom meeting to start planning for the upcoming legislative sessions and what we're gonna do.
Well, we're still Facebook Live, so we might want to get off there.
Yeah.
Oh.
Talk amongst ourselves.
Okay. Bye.
Bye, everybody.